Hello and welcome to the Tech Brain channel. In this video, I'll be creating an EC2 instance. So I'll demonstrate the process of creating and connecting to an EC2 instance in AWS. So what we'll do here is set up a web server. So this web server will be running Apache. So I'll have, the plan is that I have a user script that will provision or bootstrap my server with the web server that I require. I'll then host a very simple page which should be visible across the web. We're not doing any TLS or SSL just yet. We can do that in another video. So this will be one of many videos in this series where we cover AWS, all things AWS. Okay, so let's dive in. So I'd like to create an instance. So I can select that option as we see there. I can come in and say I'd like to create the instance. So I'll give the instance a meaningful name. I'll call it my demo web server. And then I need to select the OS. So you're given a number of different options. We are obviously limited by the fact that we're doing this on a free tier. So I'll go for Amazon Linux, this option here. And also I can specify the machine architecture, hardware architecture. So I'm going for 64-bit x86. So the instance type, we don't need anything powerful at all for what we're doing. It will be something called a T2 micro. It's got one virtual CPU and 1 GB of RAM. We'll need a key pair. Now I've got a key pair from earlier, but I can actually generate another one, so at least you can see the steps required for the generation of this key pair. So this key pair acts as your password. It's a very private piece of data. It's not the kind of thing that you want to go sharing. So let me create my key pair. So I'll call this my new key pair. And since I'm using OpenSSH as the client to connect to the machine, I'll need to have it in .pem, saved as a .pem file. Okay. Create the key pair. So that key pair, as you can see, is now on my machine, downloaded my machine. So the next section is where we define our network settings. So the best way to imagine this is, if you're not doing this in the cloud and you're launching or trying to create a web server that people could connect to, one of the things you need to do is to set up the actual networking side of things. Set up the various firewall rules, open up different ports, create a subnet, and so on. This is essentially what we do here. So you still need to have a subnet, you still need to have a network. The IP is automatically assigned, although later on there is an exercise where we define an elastic IP that you can then associate. So the elastic IP is actually static. The IP generated here is dynamic. Okay, so what traffic are we going to allow? As it says here, we'll create a new security group called launch wizard with the following rules. No, we will. So create a security group. That's the traffic to allow. So just be cautious here. Rules with a source of 0.0.0 allow the whole world to access your instance. So it is recommended that you do not think of that as the default. Never use that. Better to have an IP access list. Okay, what's next? We configure the storage. So the storage here will run the defaults. So we get 8 GB, and that's the GP3 general purpose 3. It's an SSD. If you want to find out details about each of these different drives, AWS provides extensive documentation around that. Okay, so we're not adding a new volume. So before I move away, everything else looks fine up to that point. Advanced details. So there is a section in here where I'll need to bootstrap my server. I'll need to get several things installed, and it's an optional section. You can actually do this after the instance has been provisioned. That's also an option. But what I want to do is when the instance comes up, I would like to install some software as part of the provisioning process. I would like to automate that. I'll say yum install httpd -y, and the next option is to say, okay, it's been installed. So just make sure I'll do something like this as well. So we'll say sudo enable the service, the httpd service, and system ctl enable httpd. I'll need to do that another time, and in this case I'm saying start the service. What's next? What I'd like to also do is make sure that I have an index file. And in the index file, I just need a little bit of content that says, hey, this is a web server. So for that, I can do an echo. I'll say sudo echo. What am I echoing? This is what I'd like to echo. I'll say my new server. And this will go to the following location: var www html and index html. Okay, so that's where we're going to add that new bit of content. Has the user data already been base 64 encoded? No, it's not been base 64 encoded. If it had been, I would select that option. So what we've got here is user data in plain text. Okay, so we'll move on to the next step. We'll launch our instance after we verify all the settings that we've got. This here summarizes what we've just set up. That looks fine. There is one thing worth checking, and I will collapse this section first of all. So we're creating a security group, or we can use an existing security group. So there is these two existing security groups, so let's create a new security group. Okay, and for the security group, these are the options. I'll launch my instance. Okay, so currently the instance is initiated. If I go to instances here and do a refresh, I should see it initializing. It's this one here. So it's still starting up. And we can get to inspect things like instance settings, networking, monitor, troubleshoot, get the system log. Let's refresh that. So here's where you can actually observe what's going on. So for boot or networking issues, you can use the EC2 serial console. So we'll come back to that section. I believe we can now connect. So let's do that. So here we go. Click on that, hit connect. So there's several ways of connecting. As you can see there, you're given different options. So I can actually explore my instance from the browser. And as you can see here, yeah, things are looking okay. So I'm now at a Linux terminal. So what do we have here? So I'll try to see if the web server is up and running. So I can use the ps command and we do something like that. Yeah, the web server is running. Happy days. And also verify the service is up and running, which it will be. I'll say something like sudo systemctl status httpd, and we can see that it is running. So if I come back here, that should actually change. Okay, says it's still initializing. I'm interested to see if there's anything in the logs. I can go here. Nothing yet. So go back to instance. And the instance has a publicly accessible IP address. So I'll click on that. Let's see if we can actually view the page that we set up in the user data. So that's still doing its thing there. I'll grab that there and okay, so there we go. Okay, so it's trying to go on HTTP. Okay, so there we are. So we've got our web server configured, and we had to go through those steps. We used user data for the provisioning of that web server. Okay, so I can go back to the dashboard. That's that task done. Is there anything else? We were trying to observe the logs, and we noticed that by the time that we're checking, there was nothing in the logs. Okay, now it says 2 out of 2 checks passed. So moment of truth. This is going to be useful if you're trying to diagnose any issues. So currently we don't have anything displaying in there. I do have an instance that I set up earlier, and for that instance you notice that there were issues during the setup. So if I go to monitor and troubleshoot, you can see that some of those issues were reported here. Yeah. So if at all you find yourself with trouble doing the provisioning, you can come and look in the logs. You can download the logs for further analysis as well. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this demo. If you found that useful, please like and subscribe to the Tech Brain channel. We'll be bringing you a lot of these videos in the next few weeks. So if this is the kind of thing that you're interested in, AWS, you're probably working on your AWS certification, this is going to be the channel for that. So drop us a like, let us know what you'd like to see next. So everything I've done here, by the way, I could actually automate. I could do this in a script as part of my CI/CD delivery, CI/CD pipeline. Okay, so until next time, thank you very much for watching. Bye now.